In this demo, we'll be looking at the new feature that trickled down from the spring release in April, which is PPAC Security Dashboard. Power Platform Admin Center now has a new dashboard called Security, which helps the tenant admin and Power Platform admin to analyze the security settings that's not configured properly, the recommendations from Microsoft, and a bird's eye view for the admin to take control of some of those security gaps that's available in the environment. These features can be turned on or off or configured individually within the settings at various places. This feature allows the admin to have a 360-degree view of all the environment and its associated security gaps. Let's have a look at the security admin dashboard, which is available in PPAC or Power Platform Admin Center. This is my Power Platform Admin Center, and I do have various environments and environment groups in here. What you would see recently in the environment that's been added as part of the April feature set is this particular item called Security Dashboard. If I move to another environment, which is also in the US tenant, as you can see here, this is in the United States region. It is another tenant, and you would not see this feature just yet. That's because I did not set up the release enabled recently, but I just tuned it on. So you will have to wait until that's been trickled down into your environment. So that's the difference that you would see if you are not on the latest release and latest updates. You would not see that security icon here on the left side of the panel. Let's switch back to the environment where I do have the security features that's been enabled. What you do see here is a dashboard which gives you a lot of details, starting from a nice indicator which says your security score or status, if you will, from yellow to dark green. You ideally want to be somewhere here, which means all your environment, your resource groups, your tenant are configured securely. And it also gives various insights in one place and recommendations that is required against an environment as well as against a tenant. There are guidance here given by Microsoft where you could go ahead and read those blocks as well. On the right side, there are like 6 boxes in here. And I believe in the future, you would have the option to configure this based on what is important in your tenant. As you can see from tenant isolation, the score is 0 for most of it and 50% for customer lockbox because this is a demo environment. It's not for production or customer facing. And you would want to enable tenant isolation to block cross-tenant data transfers. You could still do this in the settings, which is on the left-hand panel, one by one. For example, you can go ahead and create data policies. You could create those tenant isolation, enable customer lockbox, and stuff like that. You could definitely do all of this stuff here, but you would want a place where you could easily track not only making those changes, but also to know where you are and what's the latest in terms of each environment and tenant. If your tenant has like more than 20 to 50 environments and a lot of admin makers, app makers, and administrators, it could get really complicated for you to go to the settings one by one and configure that. And that's where I see the value here in having all of these is in one place. You also do have relevant apps in Center of Excellence Toolkit as well, which does pretty much most of these things individually. This one is pretty useful for an admin managing an enterprise-grade environment structure with various environments, managed environments, if you will. And this feature is really helpful for administrator. Now, keep in mind, most of these would only work if you have an environment which is in the managed environment space. It probably wouldn't work for an unmanaged environment. We could go into any of these settings and then use this option to isolate a tenant. The goal of this demo is not to showcase how each one of these works, but I just want to give you a heads up on how this tool is pretty useful. The moment I say, I've isolated this tenant, which doesn't talk to the other external tenant, or I could configure the policies, the isolation status or the completion status goes to green and we're good. Lockbox is a feature where a customer wants to share the file to the external parties, support ticket vendors, to share some documents confidentially. It is enabled, but I'm not going to use this feature right now. To configure IP firewall, you choose the environment. A couple of these are managed environment, so I do have that feature to configure the IP firewall. It would take you to the settings and policies. You could individually go to these places and pretty much do the same stuff. This dashboard gives you a quick view to see what's going on in your tenant and environment, and faster for you to go ahead and create those policies. Now, this is where you would configure the IP settings and firewall rules, which I'm not going to do right now. So if I go to cookie bindings, you click on that, it would pretty much take the same place where we just saw the IP firewall configuration, but it tells you this environment is lacking these settings. That's the key point of this particular security dashboard feature. Again, you would be in the same place here and then configure those IP firewall and binding and security rules. The other two features here are data policies. Most of the administrators know where to configure those data policies. We would come here on your left-hand side and click on data policies and configure those new DLPs. And by selecting the environment, configure the policies based on business, non-business, and blocked. The security dashboard would allow you to quickly go to that exactly to the same place and create the data policies. But it also tells you, the status of each environment, where it is and why it isn't configured, and it's a good practice to configure. If I click on that, it would take me to the same place like before. Finally, there is this environment security group. Of course, every environment should have a security group. For consistency and security, you don't want an individual to be the owner of the environment. There is a dashboard here which says 60% of my environment are configured, but there is some scope to the environment which doesn't have a security group. And if I click on this, it will show me the environment that doesn't have a security group. And if I select that, it would take me to the configuration page where I could configure a new security group, choose any of these groups and add that. So you could come to each of these environment, click on the environment, and then go here and then click on security groups and we configure that as well. This security dashboard gives you something unique in terms of feature set. Most of the things can be done as we have done in the past in a traditional way. Where the difference and the impact it provides is in an enterprise grade or scale environment, managing global customers and your local customers. You would have tons and tons of environment, and a lot of security settings would change based on the group that you support. You would want to have this control in one place and have a bird's eye view of what's going on in your tenant and in your environment. This security option or a dashboard is pretty handy for the administrator to take control of the environment and quickly take action based on the insights that it provides in one place. That's pretty much about this demo. Thank you for watching.